And we are back. This is Two Coaches, One Grizz. I'm Frank Morales here with our esteemed head coach, Gil Laura, and our fanatic, the Grizz, Mario Mesa. Very eventful weekend in both the pros and college football this weekend, gentlemen. We're going to jump right into it with this weekend's action in the NFL. We're just going to start with Cincinnati Bengals and Tennessee. Rematch of last year's divisional game. Mario, thoughts? Give them to me.
I mean, just pretty much the same kind of game as last year. I don't think Burrows was sacked the same amount. But same score pretty much, 20-16, same outcome, Bengals winning. And it gave you that feel of this is Thanksgiving weekend, so you know you're already getting that like playoff type of games. They're coming. And these are two teams that are battling same record. You know, Bengals have been playing better. They don't have Chase yet, but Higgins went nuts for them. And when you have three receivers like the Bengals do, that you know you could just pick and choose which one picks that week. But I mean, you know, Tannehill did okay, but that's what he does. He's just okay. He didn't no picks, but no touchdowns. Just a nice little 22 of 34, 291 game.
The Bengals did a great job of keeping them one-dimensional.
Exactly.
They ran the football. They stuffed Henry. They stuffed Henry all the way through.
Hey,
so the king couldn't get much. King Henry was stuffed like a turkey.
Well, the only play Henry did have was a pass, and he got it all the way to the 3-yard line before getting it knocked out.
Here's my thing. Would you ever, in your wildest dreams, think or say, right, in reality, Derrick Henry had more receiving yards than rushing yards?
Yeah, he doubled it.
Yeah, doubled it, which is hilarious.
But on that one play, it was a 69-yard pass.
Correct.
Which should have been a 72-yard pass and a touchdown.
Right, for sure. And you know, like you said, you just touched on it right now with Tannehill. Like, you know, he didn't play terrible, but he also didn't play great.
That's his career.
He gives you what he gives you. He's the definition of purgatory when it comes to NFL quarterbacks. But Joe Burrow, man, you know, he makes the plays when he need to. Also, shout out to Samaje Perine. Like, second half, kind of put the team on his back a little bit there.
Well, I also think the Titans are really regretting letting go of A.J. Brown. I think that's killing them.
100% agree.
That's killing them. It really doesn't.
Yeah,
their offense is very
the guy
bland.
that's supposed to be coming in, Robert Woods, 2 catches, 16 yards. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean,
you're gonna get rid of A.J. Brown for that type of production.
I made that fantasy mistake, drafting him, you know, in a relatively high spot there, and you know had to end up releasing.
Man, back to you talking about Perine. They didn't have Mixon. You know, they didn't have. You know, you don't got, like I said, Chase. Bengals have depth, and they got some players that, if they're hurt, got other players that can step up.
Grizz, and they're getting healthy at the right time. Because remember, people don't realize and don't remember that Joe Burrow did not have a preseason. He had appendicitis, was literally on the golf cart the entire preseason, right? He was knocking off rust the first half of the year, and now he's getting into his prime form.
They started 0-2. I mean, you're at 7-4 right now, so they're definitely on the hot streak.
They're on the heels of the Ravens. They've already evened up for the division. So now the Ravens have to finish games, which they have not been able to do.
Segue.
The Ravens just have not been able to finish games up and down the schedule.
I mean, they could be undefeated.
I should have covered my futures bet on over 9.5 already.
Right.
However, they keep fumbling and bumbling and allowing other teams to play and keep up. And I mean, part of me is happy because I did take Jacksonville plus the 4. They really played well. Jacksonville played an incredible game.
This is probably the first game you could say Lawrence had.
Correct.
In his career that shows the promise of his pick.
And they came out of the bye week and they did a nice job of being able to move the football. Defensively, they did give up a few yards and quite a few scores, even though their defense has been solid for the most part this year. And that's one of the things that I like about the Jaguars. They do have a good defense. See, and their offense is starting to gel.
My thing is, it's like the Bengals, or not the Bengals, I'm sorry, but Baltimore is like just so like Jekyll and Hyde, man. Like they come out in the second half and it's like, they're physically presence on the field, but there's nobody home.
Oh, but their defense is just struggling so much at big times.
But in the first half, and it's not like they have to make ridiculous adjustments. It's they play well. They play good defense in the first half, and they just let it go in the second half. And I mean, I don't know if it's just poor adjustments. They're not throwing a curveball at the team in the second half. It's like the offenses are adjusting.
They're melting in the fourth quarter. I mean, it's been fourth quarter meltdowns though. It hasn't been the whole first half. I mean, second half. It's been fourth quarter meltdowns. If you take a look at the game with Buffalo, it's at the end of the game. This game, fourth quarter, it is a fourth quarter meltdown.
And obviously the Dolphin game. Every game, the Giants, every single game they've lost, all four.
It's a fourth quarter meltdown.
They are an easily undefeated team if they just play a solid football. They have just, for some reason, have not finished games.
And then I just because I wanted to make sure before I made my next comment, right? Looking at the time of possession, Baltimore dominated time of possession, and it's not like they didn't score any points in the fourth quarter. They scored 15 points. Right, and again, because you are gonna have that contingent of humans that are like, oh well, the offense has got to help them out, and this that. No, man, this has been on the. No,
it's been the defense. They can't come up with.
Just wanted to make that.
No, they can't come up with big stops. There have been a couple games in the fourth quarter where they have not been able to run out the clock or drive the ball when you need to. But again, as I mentioned earlier, their defense just has not been what it's supposed to be.
Now, we're done crushing their defense. Now let's give praise to the quarterback, right? That young quarterback on the other side who for the first time in his young career has shown the flash of what he was picked to do. Maybe the light bulb comes on, right? Still obviously too early to tell. There hasn't been any consistency there. Doug Peterson showing some stones there and having confidence in his offense to bring it home and then going for two to close out the win. That's huge. That's huge for confidence, especially for a young quarterback. This could pay dividends for the youngin going forward, right? This could kind of set him off into a nice trajectory here. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts?
I mean, like I said, I feel that they are in a great position now to move forward. They could even win the division. I mean, they can get sneaky enough to win the division.
Insane, right?
Again, and it all comes down to, at the end of the game, how is Peterson going to run the team offensively? And if their defense can go ahead and continue their good march of stopping other teams.
Right.
So, again, we'll see how it pans out. They are an exciting team to look at. And hopefully, Lawrence can make some big plays going down the stretch.
And again, worth noting that this is also a team that was not, was banged up a little bit, has started to get healthy. And when you have the two scenarios when they're both not healthy, and also very young, right? It's not a good mixture. But again, I think they're getting over that. They've taken their lumps, and this might be setting them up for a very promising future. Again, very early to tell, but I like what I see, and I want Lawrence to be successful. He's done everything right. Let's see what happens there. Now, let's go ahead and jump over to the action on Thanksgiving Day. I thought the best game of the week there was Buffalo versus Detroit. Detroit there, man, for the large part of the game, looking like they were going to pull this one out. I was pulling for them, all right? I wanted to see them win. And there was one play in the third quarter, right? It was a second and medium, right? They were in the red zone. And Goff throws a dart out to DeAndre Swift, right? Perfect throw. DeAndre Swift doesn't come down with it. Incomplete pass. It would have been a for sure touchdown, right? And the first thing that I told, and funny enough, I told my wife, I go, this is the difference between a good team and a bad team. Good teams complete that throw and they score that touchdown. Bad teams, right? He drops that pass. That's the difference in the game right there.
It's the Lions.
And then ended up costing him, right?
It's the Lions. What else do you expect from the Lions?
No, 100%. But it's just a travesty, right? Like that little margin, that thin line, right, is what separates the good teams from the bad teams, right? When you execution and those little plays that actually make huge differences. Because what ends up happening is they end up having to go for a field goal, and then they end up missing the field goal on that drive, right? Game ends at 28-25. Right? Rough one. But, Buffalo comes back, ends up driving, is able to squeeze it out there, 28-25 victory. I don't know if this is more of an encouraging side for the Detroit Lions or a little bit scary for the Buffalo Bills that they got taken into this situation the Detroit Lions.
But again, Detroit all year has been competitive. Their offensive line is very good. They run the ball well, and they have some nice pieces offensively.
They just came off a 3-game win streak too.
Okay, the issue with that is though that how many more moral victories are you going to have?
Correct.
At the end of the day, your record doesn't say 3-7. Oh, but they're 8-3 with moral victories.
Yeah. It'll always be a moral victory to us out here talking about them because that's what we think of the Lions. Games like this coming close. Even though, like I said, 3-game winning streak, they had things on the up and up. They caught the Bills, who lately have been playing a little, they've been missing themselves. The fact that they played in Detroit 3 days earlier because they were moved, so they haven't had their set schedule. Listen, it was a good game. Detroit had them right where they wanted them. The Bills, they have the superior talent. They won the game. It's only going to get
superior
better.
Coaching.
And superior coaching.
Because again, with as much rah-rah and all that stuff that Campbell has, I still think the coaching is somewhat lacking.
It's we love him. He was down here with the Dolphins. But you see the ceiling with him, unfortunately, I think. There's only a certain, and he's exactly that. Rah-rah is probably his best build. But I would like to go real quick and talk about same day, a game that we didn't think would happen, Vikings-Patriots. Kirk Cousins actually played good at night. Showed up. Said, hey, guys. But I think Thanksgiving helped him out. And another game that was good for us Dolphin fans, Patriots losing. It'll set up the game. They actually play this Thursday, Bills and Patriots. So hopefully just bury the Patriots, get them out of here. But I got to give Kirk Cousins credit, man. He won a game at night on the big screen.
No, on the flip side, though, you got to give some props to Mac Jones, right? He threw for almost 400 yards in the game.
Mac Jones is terrible. I'll never give that guy credit.
Wow.
They came out in the first half and looked really strong. Yeah. Mac Jones did do a good job of throwing the ball around. Unlike my partner over here on the side, I disagree with him. I think Mac is going to work out well and has been working out well in New England.
I concur. So there it is. It's settled. Mac Jones will be a good quarterback. And you better watch out, right? Because you're throwing all that shade. You guys just got out of a 20-year schneid from underneath that shadow, sir. Though, and it might it might be extended here after this year. If you don't
book it. Mac Jones will not be a quarterback in the league in the next 2 years. Replay this all you want.
On that note, now it's time for our obligatory Miami Dolphins spiel. They were, as Grizz said, off the air here. They were up by 30 points in the game, and they didn't know what to do.
Couldn't figure it out.
To quote the great Ricky Bobby, I don't know what to do with my hands.
They couldn't figure out what to do, beating a bad Houston Texans team into a pulp.
Listen,
they seemed lost.
They were talking on the air during that game, like, "Hey, are they gonna have to put Tua back in? Like, did they just get back into this game?" Now, to their credit, Tua, again, he might be, if he has another good week here, he might thrust himself into the MVP conversation.
He's already there.
Your guy.
He's already there.
Your guy is he's undefeated.
He's
as
already
a starter.
there.
I think that this is a home stretch for them. I think that
this is the season right now.
I think they struggle. I think they're going to struggle against the 49ers. I think that 49er defense is going to stand up.
We got some inside knowledge.
I'm leaning towards the Niners here, even laying the 4. I think it's going to be a situation where the Niners win by over a touchdown.
Yeah, if we lose, this is the game we lose. I think anyway.
You think so?
Yep.
Tell me why.
No, I'm just saying. I think Woodgill said the defense is fantastic for the Niners. I still think it's going to be a game that both teams will be under 20. So anytime you got a game, I think that's low scoring, anything can happen. For us to win this game, we're going to need to turn them over. We're going to hopefully rely on the fact that their offense is not that great. They just won a game 13-0. They did what they needed to do against the Saints, but I think if they keep it close, we turn them over, that's our chance to win. But like I said, Mike McDaniel's coming home. He's got some inside knowledge. So I think it's going to be one of those games where, everybody knows each other. And the beautiful thing is that I know now there's no game that I don't give to a chance. Any game that man starts is a game that is a chance to win. So.
Okay, so I see it both sides here. Okay? But the fact that the Miami Dolphins head coach was the OC last year.
But he was not the OC.
Okay.
We keep calling him the OC.
Again.
He was part of the offensive staff. He created plays. The guy who calls the games is Shanahan. Shanahan's the OC.
Was his title OC or not? That's not the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah, whatever
the point that I'm
wants.
trying to make is that he spent every day around that defense, right? So, it's a give and take here. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, right, it's a facsimile of what the 49ers run. So there's insider information on both sides here, ladies and gentlemen. That 49ers defense,
but that's the matchup.
Healthy, they're young,
that's the matchup, though.
They're fast, they play the run on the way to the quarterback.
Fine, but that's the matchup.
Woo!
That's the matchup. It's not the Niners O against the Dolphins D. It's Dolphins O, Niners D. That's the marquee matchup. That's where we're going to see the money get paid. And like I said,
it's up front.
As much as the Niners are that, we are that to them. You got to worry about us. We are a juggernaut. We're becoming that.
Okay.
So at the end of the day,
I don't think you guys have seen the pass rush that you're about to get.
Absolutely not.
So
Mike, I'm sure will let him know.
Yeah. Anywho, we're gonna jump to the AFC championship game rematch this weekend. Kansas City against Cincinnati. Again, we touched on Joe Burrows earlier in the segment. He's firing on all cylinders right now, but Kansas City is not a team, obviously, that to fall asleep on, right? They are still the number one seed in the AFC right now. But Cincinnati's kind of in the same position they were last year, right? The dark horse. And we kind of talked about that on the pod last year when we saw them kind of catching their bearings right around this time of the season. So what are your thoughts on this game, Coach, and how do you think it's going to go?
I'll be honest with you. Cincinnati's strength is Kansas City's weakness. I think they can throw the ball. We were talking earlier off air. Jamar Chase is expected to be back. So I really think that him being out has allowed Burrows to get used to his other receivers, get them in play. So I think Jamar Chase is not going to be that cherry on top. They're playing at Cincinnati. I think it's going to be a tough game for Kansas City. I know Kansas City does really good in short spread games. But I do think that KC is a live dog here. They could even, again, pull off the upset and beat KC in Cincinnati. Last year, their defense, and again, they're starting to look like the defense from last year. Last year, the defense went to a three-man front or really from a four-man front, dropped one of the ends and would rush only three, and they would drop one of the ends to double the slot and then come off and become that extra spy. So again, I do think Cincinnati has good things up their sleeve that could help them to win the game or put them in a position to do so.
So here's my thought on this game, right? Cincinnati has shown that they're still effective, right, without Jamar Chase, right? Everybody thought earlier in the season that this was a death knell for them. Joe Burrow has come out and proved that he can do it without his stud guy. On the flip side, Kansas City, they've been sputtering a little bit. Not that it's been, they're still effective, but I think the difference in this game is if Juju Smith-Schuster is healthy. Kadarius Toney can also make.
Juju played last week, had 3 catches. Again, I'm more concerned with how the defense handles Kelsey, and again, I do think that the Cincinnati defense will be able to jump in there with everything that they've been doing.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, I want to see the Bengals pull this out. It would make the AFC race a little bit more interesting, right? And who knows? They lose, Dolphins get a dub here. And now we'll have to give the entire segment to the Grizz over here and allow him to pontificates, right? Perseverates his joy upon us. So let's go ahead and close out the segment here and jump to the Eagles and Titans this weekend. I think this is going to be an old school punch you in the mouth, slobber knocker type of game, like Coach says here. Two of the most effective run games on the ground, right? This is going to be fun to watch, right? It's going to be some old school football. I'm going to enjoy it. Grizz, thoughts?
No, same. This is just hand the ball off. Let's see who gets it. I mean, the Eagles just came off running over 300 yards last week. I mean, just going to be pick your poison, who wants to run in there. And I think Derek comes back this week. He's going to go over the century mark. I'm not saying that as an owner. I'm just saying that as, I think the guy is one of the best backs. And this type of game, he's going to be like, all you guys, I'm better than all of y'all. So, this is a make or break for the Titans too, because Gil was saying earlier that the Jags might have a chance, and I didn't realize that the Jags do play the Titans twice to finish the season, and you're 7-4, you're going against the Eagles, you lose that game, it might get a little dicey. So this is a really huge game for the Titans.
So I'm gonna lean on the teachings and the lessons of our illustrious head coach here, and from what I see, the public is on the Eagles heavy. I'm going the other way. I'm gonna pick the Titans in this game. All right, they're number one rushing. The Eagles are number one rushing attack. The problem is they're going against the number one rushing defense.
I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but the public is on Tennessee.
Are they?
Ooh. Tennessee is the popular team. The line has moved in favor of Tennessee. I was listening to one of the guys that I listened to this afternoon.
ESPN, you let me down.
And he was saying something which and again, I'm starting to try to look at the lines differently and to ask myself, why are they doing this? Why would you do this? Tennessee is a good running team, right? Philadelphia has struggled with the run as of late. Mm-hmm. Okay, so why would you lay out a game at 6-7 points for a strong running team? John Q. Public right now just said, hey, I'm going to take Tennessee. Tennessee runs the ball. They look good.
Number one rushing defense.
And they stop the run. So I'm going to give you Tennessee in 7. That sounds insane. Why would they do that? Everybody's jumping on Tennessee's bandwagon. Everybody's taking Tennessee. So that's where now you got to take a step back and say, damn, maybe Philly blows them out. Mm-hmm. Maybe Philly all of a sudden can win by more than a touchdown. Which again, when you think about it, you look at it, you're like, wow, that makes perfect sense. Even though it sounds crazy.
No, I hear. I was going on what.
ESPN. Yes.
So, but no, again, it does make perfect sense. But again, number one rushing attack against the number one rushing defense. Big boy football. Let's see what happens.
At DraftKings, they have 88% of the bets, 88% of the money. At Circa, they have 86% of the bets, 91% of the money.
No, so you got to go the other way there.
I'm gonna really quick touch on 2 real quick games. One, I want to mention your Giants playing the Commanders. Big game. Couldn't believe that the Commanders are 7-5. Have a chance to.
We love the Giants in this spot.
I know, no, definitely the Giants. I think cover and win this game. But the fact that the whole NFC East has a chance to make the playoffs makes me laugh.
Crazy.
After all the years, how terrible that division has been. And here it is. We've gotten this far into the season. We spoke so much about this in the offseason. And here it comes. We have the massagers back on the field this weekend.
That's right.
He came up all of a sudden, and I just realized, because of course he comes back, perfect game at his old school Texans. And I'm just flabbergasted that here we are.
I can't wait to watch that game.
And
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Nobody cares.
What do you mean nobody cares?
No, I'm just saying it's not really.
No, nobody cares about his.
But what I'm saying is like it's all about
Cleveland at Houston. I mean that's the only. It's like, oh wow, right. But he's going back to Houston, which is his old team. I mean that's the only.
Here's the beauty of it. Like as always, you give something enough time, and you don't talk about it, it just fades away. and other stuff happens.
Okay, so here I'm gonna make a bold comment here, and you guys might run for the hills, but if this dude comes back and he's on freaking fire, they may make a playoff run.
First of all,
they have a good run game. They have a good defense.
The only
to make
reason
a playoff run, they gotta win every game.
The only reason he'll look a little
10-7 gets him into the playoffs.
The only reason
Depends on the other
he's going to
teams.
look half decent this weekend is because they're playing the Texans, and the Texans suck.
Yeah, I mean,
But Coach, sometimes that's what you need to get some momentum.
No, but he's listen,
but even if it's
he's
one
gonna
game,
be super rusty.
he gives you 10
He hasn't
touchdowns.
played
It's
in
the
2
Texans.
years, brother. He hasn't played NFL football in 2 years. If the Texans weren't as bad as they really are, I would be jumping all over the Texans this weekend. I almost took the Texans last weekend against Miami, and they covered by half a point.
So, okay.
Miami only covered by
Here's
half a
your thing.
point.
After the Texans, it's at the Bengals, home against the Ravens, home against the Saints, at Washington. Come on. Not happening, man. He's going to have a good, whatever. Hopefully he's good and he's fun to watch because, if he's going to be out there, I want to see the guy. But I'm saying, ain't going to lead him to the playoff run.
Next year, you can have that convo, and we can really look at
That's
it.
the problem. They should have been 6-5 right now.
To have a
Maybe
shot.
5-6. But
Right.
4-7, you're out of it.
And again, I like I said, I think he's going to be extremely rusty. It's been 2 years. And nobody comes off the sidelines after 2 years of
And
not
like I
playing
said,
football.
if you're going to have it, you'll have it against the Texans. Your old team, you know everything about, the worst team in the NFL. Obviously, that's it. But then the next week against the Bengals on the road, get out of here.
Well, beauty about this is we shall see, and we'll cover it next week. That does it for this segment. This segment brought to you by General Carnitas Premium Meats. Follow and share on generalcarnitas.com for all your favorite premium meat selections. We'll be right back with NCAA action. We're going to jump right into this action here with the game this weekend. Michigan, Ohio State. And everybody here, right, I think we're all happy that Michigan came out and put the whooping on them in the second half to pull that
Go
out.
Big Blue.
Go Blue and Maize. Grizz, give me your breakdown.
Oh, it was just beautiful. It was beautiful. It didn't look good at first. Ohio State came out, scored the first touchdown. You're like, it's going to be one of these days. And like I had said, I picked Ohio State because I said, they're going to, it's home. They're going to put this team to bed because the running backs, and you hadn't really seen the quarterback throw all year like that. And every touchdown was a big play. That's what I love to see. Just bombs. Go get it. And then in the second half, what they've done all year, Michigan in the second half just puts you to sleep. And it was just, you give it to your second running back with a cast, and that guy goes twice for 70-plus yards and just puts you out. And the whole year, that's the only game you have looking forward. Ohio State has no other game. Michigan has no other game. This is the game. That's what they call it, right?
The game.
The game. And you show up and lay an egg. I love the fact that Michigan did this to Ohio State. No team deserves to get lambasted like Ohio State. They're
Breach.
I can't stand that team. It was great. You made me a Michigan fan for the day, guys. You know what I'm saying? Love it. And after seeing that game, this is the team that can take on a Georgia team in the playoffs. This is a tough team, and you got to give props to Jim Harbaugh and crew.
Listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. Early on in the game, I was worried. Right, Blake Corum only had 2 carries for 6 yards.
Yeah, he made one cut, and that knee wasn't
It
solid.
wasn't there, and then you're like, oh, they're gonna lean on Donovan Edwards. Donovan Edwards has a broken bone in his hand or his wrist.
It didn't look good.
It didn't look good. And then what they did was Ohio State, right? Because they got some fat stones on them too. Where said we're gonna put that in the box. We're gonna play man coverage on you, and we're gonna dare you to beat us over the top. And guess what? The youngin came through, and I will be the first one to tell you that some of those throws were not pretty, but those receivers went and got those balls.
But let me tell you something. The whole scheme and the routes that they ran,
Beautiful.
were super impressive. That tight end out and up was gorgeous, where he scored one of the touchdowns on. It just reiterates to me that Michigan, Harbaugh's doing a good job recruiting, has done a good job to get to this point 2 years in a row, have them right on the doorstep of playing for a national championship. Something you haven't seen Michigan do in many, many, many years.
2006.
And again, running the football, playing good defense, because their defense was balling out.
Yeah.
I mean, they were balling. They were running that 3-4 to a
It was beautiful.
unbelievable.
It was a symphony.
Super nice. And they played zone. Man, they switched it up. They blitzed. They did everything they had to do. And again, it was a good, solid win for them. I think it puts them in a good position as far as the college football playoffs are concerned. Going this weekend against Purdue.
They're in.
I think
matter
Purdue,
what happens.
I think they should be Purdue.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a situation where Purdue sneaks up on them or anything like that. I think Harbaugh will have them ready. And I just think that defense, they can ride that defense for a bit.
Listen, and also when we look at it from Ohio State's perspective, like C.J. Stroud, this was his game to seal up the Heisman because he was the Heisman front runner. And then to your point, talking about 3-4, he couldn't handle the zone blitzes. Like they were confusing the crap out of him, and it showed. And I know Grizz brought this up last. Like Ohio State QBs, man, like they don't. I don't know what it is. Like he lost it there. He lost it. The Heisman was in his hands, and they didn't even have to win the game. He just had to continue to perform well, and he shit the bed. Sorry.
I also think that their lack of a running game hurt them tremendously, and that's one thing that I got to give credit to Harbaugh. The first 4 series, they were not running the ball extremely well or anything like that. They were sluggish. They stuck with it. He kept on hammering it in there. He kept on doing different things. And again, he used play action to his advantage.
I mean, for what
to
it's
then
worth,
be able to throw the rock.
Those two long runs were basically 160 yards worth of the 252 they had. So they weren't running, but they had enough carries and they kept going at it.
They kept hammering it.
They kept hammering.
You pound the rock, eventually it breaks.
Second half, they gave up 3 points to that vaunted Ohio State offense. Outscored them 28-3. I mean, I'm telling you, this is the difference between, I think, this year's team and last year's team. The experience, what this team now has grown into.
The confidence.
Confidence is just...
The hog mollies.
Yeah. I mean,
the hog mollies up
baby.
front, I think it's going to make a big difference. Their center, I love their center. Yeah. That guy's a stud.
Listen, they pull him.
He's
you don't
a
see
stud.
That much.
That guy's a stud.
And then
he calls everything. I mean, he is.
They run that center buck sweep.
Yes,
it is disgusting.
No, I'm telling you and again, and it bothers me. It pisses me off because I thought that's the offense that I would see here with Gaddis coming in as our OC at Miami.
It says a lot, though.
It bothers me that our offense is not running more of that, more of those type of plays, more of the pulling guards.
But is it the players we have?
To be honest with you, I don't think so. Because if you take a look at Miami, right, and you take a look at when we run our counter scheme game, we do a good job. We're averaging about 4.5 yards a carry every time we run that counter scheme game. So I think that we have the big kids. Our tackles are big guys that can block down, that can go ahead and set the edge. Okay,
he's not going to come back. That's the problem.
Well, I mean, again, but I'm not worried about it. My thing is that why did we not do it? Why did we not run this type of stuff?
So I had this conversation with a colleague, and you're familiar with him, with George Garcia, and the problem is I think that there was a struggle for philosophy in behind closed doors there, right? Like if Josh Gaddis was hired to be the OC, and that was the scheme that he's bringing over from Michigan, why were we still so, zone heavy?
Again, I've said that.
And I think that's a crystal ball / mirror ball philosophy fight versus a Josh Gaddis philosophy.
I've said that from day one. In my bones, I feel that mirror ball is more of a zone guy. He's sold on the zone because that's what they did in Oregon. And Cristobal likes it, does it. They work together very well. They're the ones who coach the O-line. And that was a struggle, and Gaddis had to give in to the head coach. Again, that is my belief. We'll see later on down the road if Gaddis goes somewhere else. We'll see what kind of an offense he implements and what he runs. But again, I really think that with Miami, it would have served us better, and we would have scored more than 16 points against Pittsburgh while giving up 42. I really think that we would have had a much better season if we would have transitioned to more of a gap scheme game, sprinkled with some zone. Because Michigan does use zone principles and has some zone running games. But
it's an identity thing, though.
Right. They're going to come downhill. They're going to punch you in the mouth. I mean, a couple of times they ran that inside zone, which it's called duo, and both guard and center and guard and tackle are double teaming both D tackles. Right. And they ran that very nicely. So again, to me, we have to see where this goes, but
yeah, listen, overall, I mean, beautiful game to watch. I think, again, like we've talked about, everybody's happy that Michigan, took it to Ohio State. Michigan punching their ticket to the college football playoff. I think regardless of what happens this week against Purdue and knocking out Ohio State, which is, to everybody.
Well, putting them on the outside looking in right now, because they still do have an outside chance to sneak back in.
Depending on how these championship games
Correct.
Correct.
So we're going to have to see how that works out.
And talking about that, our next game, USC Notre Dame, played out perfectly the way I wanted. USC winning, taking out another team that is not fairly liked in our circles. But and to be honest, it felt like this game was back. Since the Reggie Bush days, Matt Leinart.
For sure.
It felt good to see this rivalry back. But yes, USC winning, basically, one win away from putting their ticket into the playoffs.
Yeah, so whereas C.J. Stroud lost the Heisman in his game this Saturday, Caleb Williams comes in and essentially locks up the Heisman, complete with a little Heisman pose on the sideline, rushes for 3 touchdowns, and just looked like the dude in that game.
I was expecting, looking at his box score right here, I thought it was going to be more yards because he had like some runs there. The problem is he wasn't running. He probably ran 100 yards on one play from side to side and juking people out just to get a 7-yard gain or something. But his game was out of control. And that's exactly right. I think he won himself a Heisman. He had Heisman moment plays.
Well, if you're a believer in the QBR, his QBR on Saturday night was 97.6, which is pretty damn near as close to a perfect game.
I'm not.
As close to a perfect game as you can play as a quarterback, right? Because the rating's out of 100.
As I said going into the game, we discussed it here. That was my concern with Notre Dame, was the lack of quarterback play for Notre Dame. The freshmen just could not come up with enough plays to keep them in the game. They were in the game early.
Pretty accurate, 23 to 26.
They were in the game early.
But he did throw one of those was an interception.
A couple of picks. But again, Caleb just did a great job all night of getting out of pressure, running away, breaking contain, all of us going downfield. He made a couple of throws that were, again, they're no-nos because you're going against your body. But the guy was open, hit him right on the money. I mean, again, I was extremely, extremely impressed with how well he played. And we'll see this weekend now when they take on Utah. That's going to be a rematch of earlier this season.
Their only loss?
So we'll see how that game plays out.
Yeah, and it should have been, in the other game I wanted to mention, it should have been the Ducks. But they ran into the Beavers.
As the Grizz called it last week.
Yes, he did, sir.
We had some live Beavers out there.
Tell you, listen, if you do not like Beavers, I don't want to be your friend. Because everybody should be a friend of the Beavers. And Oregon State...
Fuzzy, cute little Beavers.
Hey, and let me tell you, these Beavers came back down 31-10. They never threw the ball.
Not once.
They didn't throw the ball. The quarterback was 6 of 13 for 60 yards, 2 picks. You want QBR? The guy had a 9.9. That doesn't matter. Because they ran this ball every play in the fourth quarter. And the Ducks, 3 straight turnover on downs. They got block punt at the 1-yard line. They went for it. This is starting to piss me off because the analytics and I know it's 4th and 1, but you're up 34, and yeah, they're only going to run the ball at you. You're up 34 to 31, and you go for it at your own 28-yard line. Come on.
That's again, and that to me has nothing to do with analytics. I think that's just stupid football. You punt and you play defense, Make them drive the ball. You're still winning the game. Force them to make plays. Don't give them good field position. Don't give away free points.
I mean, I'm glad. Like I said, I want the Beavers to win. Right. I'm still not going to be telling you, the Ducks played idiotic football. They should have not lost that game.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree there. Like, this is a choke job in the truest sense, right? Like, how do you not do this, right? Scoring 21 points in the fourth quarter, right, to Oregon's 3, it was a complete shutdown across the board.
Like I said, running the ball. I mean, old school football of just, we're not going to throw the ball. We're just going to run it down your throat.
Stop us if you can, baby.
Yeah.
Stop us if you can.
This also shows me how amazingly top-heavy the Pac-12 has been, where all these teams, I mean, like I said, Oregon State 9-3, Ducks 9-3, the Huskies ended up 10-2. All these teams, and you got Utah now against USC for the championship. USC's only loss of the year. They lost by 1. Now you get to avenge that loss against who a lot of people had Utah as the preseason favorite to go to the playoffs. So, I mean, you're making the case to me. Oregon State winning not only helped, like I said, my call, but they helped out the fact that earlier in the season, I remember USC beat them 14-10 in Corvallis, and that was just Oregon State. No, turns out to be a very, very good win.
No, the coach there is doing a great job. He's done a phenomenal job over the last couple of years, recruiting wise, the way they play the game. They're a tough out,
Yeah.
and as you mentioned, they played the game in Corvallis. Going there is a super great football atmosphere, and it's difficult for any visiting team to pull out a win.
That's why they call it the Civil
So
War. I mean, this is a tough
Smith
rivalry.
has done a great job there, and kudos to him in the upset this weekend and knocking Oregon out completely from the playoff picture as well as the Pac-12 championship.
Well, and it's not very often that you see that a comeback win like this helps the conference out overall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of times, this happening to Oregon weakened the Pac-12 in the past, and now here it actually strengthened everybody's standings, right? And it makes the Pac-12 championship that much more important. So yeah, good for them overall across the board, because now it's looking at it here. It's 5 teams in the top 25. So
Right.
we didn't even
considering you're
mention
losing
UCLA,
two,
so
right.
6.
So 6,
Right.
right?
You're going to lose 2 teams to the Big Ten. So, again, that we'll see now what they do with realignment. Who are they bringing in? What's going to happen?
For me, once you lose USC, UCLA, cornerstones of the Pac-12, I eventually it's sad. These conferences, we will obviously talk about that more down the road, but it'll end up that conference will be gone. This is the last couple of years. We haven't seen the Pac-12 be good. In the last the last 20 years, the only team that's played basic for a championship was Oregon that 1 year and USC 18 years ago. So
Right.
I mean, it's just that was the forgotten conference is what I'm saying. And after you've seen, like I said, all these teams, you got a lot of really good teams that at any point, yeah, maybe could they beat Georgia, right? Maybe only USC. But I'm saying a lot of these teams are hard outs. And if you go play, which is a sad thing, a lot of these East Coast teams never go play out West because they don't want to go travel. So it would be a little fun to see that.
Now let's jump to another upset that we had here with another team scoring 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, or second half or fourth quarter. I think it was in the fourth quarter. Was South Carolina against Clemson, and Clemson coughing that one up. Yes. Go ahead.
DJ
Go ahead.
Uiagalelei sucks. 9 of 29 for the game.
That's
He's
awful,
horrible.
awful stat.
I am so glad that I have been vindicated as the season has progressed with my scouting report on DJ. I said it. The guy's horrid.
So bad.
He's terrible. And now, I'm telling you right now, the freshman kid is going to be a stud. He is going to be tough to beat. Okay? Again, with that loss, Clemson now is out of the playoff picture as well with 2 losses. We'll see what happens this weekend against North Carolina. North Carolina's quarterback is also a stud. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you.
May's legit, man. Like his stats stack up with all of the Heisman front runners.
If TVD can get healthy and this offense can start looking like an offense again, you're going to have 3 or 4 top-notch quarterbacks in the ACC next year. It's going to be disgusting.
Listen, Spencer Rattler, though, okay, coming on as of late.
Great, and this was a perfect letdown spot. And that's the only reason I stayed away from it, because the line stayed at 14 and a half, and I really like South Carolina.
And they had just come off that
They
big
came
win
off a
against
big
Tennessee.
win against Tennessee, so this was a perfect letdown spot to play at Clemson. Clemson was manhandling them early, and that shows again. That also shows how much work Beamer has done at South Carolina.
As you said last week, Beamer Ball's alive and well in South
Beamer
Carolina.
Ball is working, and again, that's going to be a nice little team going forward. We'll see if Rattler stays another year. I think it would be smart of him
has to.
to do so, especially after these 2 games.
Listen, about 2.5 weeks ago, Florida had dismantled South Carolina. They were 6-4. Yeah, Beamer Ball was back, maybe, but then they played Tennessee. South Carolina destroys them, puts 60+ on them. Then they go into Clemson, had won 40 in a row at home. We're getting close to the old school record for the Kings at 58 at home. And they came back and win. So in the last 2 games, they did something they've never done in their history, which is beat 2 top 10 opponents. And just like that, they went from having a season that could have been like, hey, nice start, fresh to the season, to finishing right now in the top 20 in the latest polls, and probably a really good bowl game that's coming up. And I mean, maybe they're in contention next year for the East now.
No, I think that's where they put themselves, because they're going to have a nice little recruiting offseason here.
You'd expect them to. You do expect them to do that.
You couldn't have 2 better games to help your recruiting.
Yeah,
correct.
Bolster yourself into that. Now they have to close it out with a good bowl game, but we'll see what happens there. Anything can happen. That's a whole different season in and of itself. Let's jump into this week's state of action in Championship Saturday. Man, we got some action-packed games. Utah, USC in the Pac-12 championship. Coach, what do you got here, buddy?
And we'll talk about it a little bit more in the deep dive, or I'll mention the deep dive. I did take Utah +3. The line is starting to move to 2.5. I think this is a good spot for Utah to cover. I do think that all the hoopla over the last 2 weeks with USC, Caleb and the Heisman, all of this stuff, I think it starts catching up to you. They're right now number 4. They're ranked number 4. They haven't been there in a long time. I do think that this is a good spot for Utah to sneak in there and rough them up. Again, their defense is not a great defense. I think that the quarterback for Utah is going to put himself in position, Cam Rising, to make some plays. And the running game and the physicality of Utah is going to be difficult for USC.
So let's talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room here. And if USC loses, does that open the door again for Ohio State?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
If USC loses, they're done. You're not going to go a 2-loss Pac-12 team that did not win the Pac-12 championship. They're not getting it. So that absolutely opens the door. Once again, it's Georgia, Michigan, whether they win or lose. Then you have TCU, which that's the other game that, they're playing Kansas State, who's number 10. You already beat them by 10. If they lose to Kansas State, but it's close, I think TCU's still safe.
I agree with that. I think TCU's still in with a close loss. Now,
wow, really?
If now Kansas State comes out and bangs the brakes off of them, then
but
I think they see themselves on the outside looking in. But I think with a close, respectable loss, I think TCU is still in at 4.
I don't see that. I don't see that happening. Number one, Kansas State's record is not one of a one-loss team or an undefeated team.
No, 9-3.
You're going to have a TCU team with 1 loss that, again, is not looked upon as a strong team. You're going to have an Ohio State team that played Notre Dame, beat Notre Dame, lost to Michigan. It's the only blemish on the record. I don't see
here's
a one-loss Ohio State being left out over a one-loss TCU.
Well, here's where I disagree with you here, coaches. TCU actually has the best strength of schedule of all teams. Their strength of schedule is number 1 in all of the top 25 and all of FBS. So, like I said, I think a close loss, they're still in because of that.
Aesthetically, I don't know. Again, I just think Ohio State gets in with 1 loss.
But the only way TCU, I think, does not get in is if USC wins. TCU loses by a touchdown or more, then I think Ohio State can creep.
Sneaks in.
If both USC and TCU lose, I think that's better for TCU.
Correct.
Because, like I said, I don't think the only other team that could come in at that point would be Alabama. You're not going to put a 2-loss Alabama in there. I'm sorry.
No.
Especially, it definitely should not be fair.
They don't have any good
ahead
wins.
Of Tennessee.
Yeah, and they don't have any good wins.
They have no good wins. I mean, their good wins were Texas and Mississippi, and those don't look as great as they did at the moment that they beat them. But I just think also, Gil, the Kansas State team at being 9-3, the committee puts them at 10. So I mean, that's a worthy ranking. And like I said, they won the regular season 12-0.
Right.
And they were decisive in some games. They did have to come back in a few games. But I just think the way that Ohio State got obliterated at the end, even though it is Michigan, didn't look good. And I just think it has to be a blowout for TCU to not get in. If it's a close game and they lose right at the edge, I still think they're safe.
No, Again, and I agree with that. I think you and I, Grizz, we're on the same page there as it stands right now. Obviously, Georgia number 1, Michigan 2, TCU 3, and USC 4. If that holds and those teams win their championship games, that's going to be the top 4 in. As we talked about, chaos, a little bit of chaos needs to happen.
Yeah, those are the 2 games that the only real chaos can happen.
Right.
Georgia, LSU.
Because if Georgia, Michigan lose for some reason, I think it's just a flip-flop situation there, right?
And let's be honest, I think both of those games are going to be not even close.
100%.
I don't even think LSU is going to get put to bed early. Purdue, thanks for being here. Get a participation trophy.
Out.
They got to fix that because these championship games have been a little bit off-putting because the heavy side is on the.
That's why they're going. They're not going to have divisions.
Yeah, they need to just exactly. Guess what? It would have been Michigan, Ohio State round 2 this week. I'd rather watch that again.
Yeah, I would.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you. Yeah, listen. I think Georgia comes out and leaves no doubt. Mm-hmm. I think that they've been playing. You know how they talk about with the NBA teams after they've gone on their runs and then they become kind of bored during the regular season.
First of all, Georgia
roll through. I think Georgia rolls through LSU.
Georgia lost last year, right? Georgia had one loss last year, right? And they won the championship.
Correct.
All right. How can we improve on that?
Yeah,
let's go undefeated.
Go undefeated, right?
So it's not
but
like
that's what I'm saying. They're where they wanted to be, right? They played. I don't want to. I guess I want to say they played uninspired ball the entire year because they knew that they were better than everybody.
This is not a year. This is not a year of the juggernaut. Even though Georgia is probably, they've had games where this is still not where you're like.
When they played Tennessee, they showed who they were. They came out. Yeah. They throttled Tennessee. Tennessee couldn't move the football, and they threw and ran and did everything. Yeah,
perfect
storm. They had a couple games, like you said,
but
they slept walk through. Because, like you said, they're just so much better. They were like, "Oh, bro, we gotta play these guys."
Now they're at where they want to be.
This is now for all the marbles. This is their SEC championship back to back.
And pretty much, this is also like I was saying off fair, like for USC, for TCU. Yeah, do we want to make the playoffs? Sure. This is already the playoffs. This is the quarterfinals, guys. You know what I'm saying? If you lose, most likely you're not gonna make it. You move on. So we're here. I can't wait till the 12 teams already, so we don't have to worry about all this. And if we got to argue what happened with 13 and 14, we'll argue that for a day. But it'll be 12 teams put on the field and stop this.
I'm taking Alabama in the 12 team.
If we had a 12 team field, that would be cool. You'd have Alabama would be like, let's go all day.
Yeah, I think this is.
But you see, maybe even like a team, your Utes would be a scary team right now, right? They'd be in the top 12. You'd have so many teams that it's like the NFL. Get hot at the right time.
And right now that game, that Pac-12 game would be super meaningful to Utah.
Correct.
It's not just the Pac-12, man. It's for us to stay where we're at.
Yeah, because every time I hear the expansion of playoffs weakens the regular season to me, I can argue it heightens it. And I also heard, rivalries won't mean the same anymore. Bull. Doesn't matter. You're still going to look across the field and see a team you hate every time you play them, and it's going to mean something. And the regular season always will mean something. Yes, You lose. The difference is you lose one game, and your season, it used to be, oh my God, we lost one game.
The magnitude of the loss won't be as great, but it's still going to have the same meaning, like traditional meaning that it always
you're
does.
still going to want to win all your games. You're still, and you might have a team with 3 losses get into the playoffs and win it all.
Be hot, right.
Do they deserve it? Yeah, you know why? Because they played every game. And if they ended up beating teams that were undefeated in front of them, then guess what? They deserve it.
Right.
So that's why, like, I love playoffs, and I love just settling on the field instead of the beauty contest that every week, I think this team's this and this team's that. Once again, man, it doesn't matter. Put it on the field, and we'll see what happens.
100%. We're going to leave it right there. We're going to come back with the deep dive in the last segment. We're back to close out the show here with our patented deep dive, and I'm already feeling a little sick because we went over this stuff, off air, and these picks make me a little queasy. But I'll let the coach roll with it right now.
Guys, if we've learned anything, is that we gotta take the uglies. It is what it is. Last week we had another scorching week. We hit on Duke. We hit on Arizona State +4. How? Think about that. Arizona State +4. Who takes that? Huh? We do, and we bring it home.
What was your overall record last week?
Last week, I want to say we went 10-3, 11-3.
Woo!
We ended up hitting 3 out of 5 unders again. What? Again? How about them Gators? Huh? How about them Gators? They kept it under 9.5. Beautiful cover. Phenomenal. Great game too. Exciting back and forth action. I mean, listen. You can't get better than that. We got Memphis +4.5 against Southern Methodist, against SMU. Again, who takes that?
Ugh.
Us. We do. Air Force won a disgusting 13-0 game against San Diego State. Listen, if you wanted to go backwards 25 years on offense, you watch that game. Unbelievable. Ugh. But we brought it home. We made it happen. And thank God. Again, listen, like I told you last week, it's not me. I pray every week. I say, Lord, please let me see these lines. Allow me to find the right numbers, because I can't do it on my own. I suck at this.
Yeah, usually the Lord just points you to the bottom of the barrel.
I'm telling you.
And finds it.
I'm telling you, it's the meek shall inherit the earth, brother. And that's how it works. That's how it works.
The other saying is the Lord does work in mysterious ways.
He does. Amen to that. Moving right along into championship weekend, we're going with all dogs this weekend. We're taking Fresno State +3.5. That line is still at 3.5. It's starting to move to 3. They played Boise State earlier this year. Boise beat them by 20. However, their starting quarterback was not there. I think Jake Hayner wants to make a statement. I think the last couple of weeks, he's been on fire. I think he wants to win this championship. And I think that going forward, going into the bowl game, he will probably play the bowl game as well, just for his draft stock. Because I think it went down because he missed 3 or 4 games this year. On the big game, we're on Utah +3. We said it already. It's already moving to 2.5. We like it a lot. Everybody's all over USC. USC is a super popular play. I think Utah makes it gritty. It's in Las Vegas. It's in Sin City. So I think they're going to make it grimy. We like the Ohio Bobcats +2.5 against Toledo. That's gonna be a nice game. That's gonna be an interesting game.
Max.
And last but not least, we're taking a little Max, small play, nothing big. We're taking the Akron Zips +12 against Buffalo.
This is the one I needed the Pepto for. This one got me a
Hey, listen, again, small, nothing big, just a small
Zips,
play.
Yo.
We think 12 points is just too much. We think Moorhead is starting to move that program in the right direction as far as scoring points. Over on the NFL side, last week we only lost Washington -4.5. Atlanta +4.5. We came through with Jacksonville. Jacksonville, great ending. And we came through with the Jets. Jets, Jets. This week we're on the Bills, Pats -44.5. Under 44.5. That line has already moved a point to 43.5. We're back on Jacksonville again. Jacksonville went from +1 to -1. What we'd like to say, a dog to favorite flip. Again, I wouldn't lay the points. I might play a money line at this point, but Jacksonville +1, and we like the Giants +2.5. We think that Washington, even though they've been playing good football, They're a little overrated. They're playing in New York.
Do you know they're 6-1?
Yes.
Since starting what?
Yes.
1-5.
Correct.
Or some craziness
Yes,
like
sir.
that?
Yes, sir. You're absolutely
started
correct.
1-4.
Ugh.
And that's why we take them. We like the Giants there. We've been putting together some three-legged teasers, Wong teasers, and it's been really good for us the last three or 4 weeks. We've been taking underdogs and crossing the key numbers of 3 and 7. So what we did was we took the Giants, we teased them to 8.5. We took the Raiders from 1.5 to 7.5. We really think they have a good shot this week against the Chargers. And we took Cincy at 2 plus 8. They're playing the mighty Tennessee Titans. We like that game. That also plays you like a little parlay, since you like the parlays.
Which
that
one
pays
did you have? Cincy?
I got Cincy.
No, that's against the Chiefs.
Yes. I'm sorry, against Kansas City. I'm sorry, against Kansas City. They beat Tennessee last week.
Correct.
Against the Chiefs, we like them at plus 8. Vegas Raiders at plus 7. And the Giants at plus 8. 8.5. It's a 100 to win 170. So it's a little bit like a parlay, but it's a Wong teaser.
Tease.
It's a Wong teaser. And again, we like to cross the numbers. That's our deep dive for this week. We're hoping that we continue.
Fire in your eye.
We hope that we continue to stay hot. Like I said, as I said last week, I'm very grateful. I don't want to take whatever credit or whatever. It's not about me. It's about going out there again, and I want you guys to take a look at the lines and ask yourself, why is this happening? Why is this line the way it looks? What's wrong with it? Why do people love it so much? And again, that one this week, I'm gonna be honest with you, I might get chalky. We might go with the Eagles at -5. That line's been going and trending against the Eagles all week. We might take them just because we think the Tennessee Titans are getting too much credit, and Vegas is giving you too many points.
You heard it here first. Let's see how it goes. Let's continue this hot streak, huh? I'm gonna go. I might need to get some of that Pepto-Bismol from you because it was a little disgusting here, but I like it. I like it.
Gotta keep it saucy.
I like it. That's gonna do it for us today, ladies and gentlemen. It has been it was a delightful show. A little bit of hiccup here and there, but it'll be nice, right?
Next week we're gonna throw in some college basketball. College basketball is getting revved up, so we'll start with that. I already did a couple plays today. We're taking a look at some numbers, so we'll see how we finish out.
And listen, we can't close out the show without a little "I believe that we can win" chant here for USA. All right, pulling it out against Iran 1-0 to advance. Right
They're in the round of 16
in the World Cup here.
10 a.m. Saturday, guys. 10 a.m. Saturdays.
You can't ask for a better time to watch this game. 10 a.m. leads you into college football championship Saturday. I love the fact that we're playing the Dutch, so you know where I'm about in that game. And let me tell you, not that I'm going to go ahead of myself. Not a soccer guy, only a World Cup guy. When it comes around, I'm like, hey, let's go USA. But if we beat the Dutch, possible matchup with the Argentines, that would be fun.
This is 2 Coaches, 1 Grizz. Out.